Kick off this half hour in the Windy City, where Democrats are in the political spotlight this week. Here's a live look in Chicago, where the Democratic National Convention is just about to officially begin. The stage is set for Vice President Kamala Harris to formally accept the party's nomination.
And Skylar Henry joins us live from the convention. So, Skylar, let's start with a rundown for tonight. President Biden is the keynote speaker. So what are we expecting to hear from him?
Well, Jeff and Aaron, I think we will hear some of the greatest hits, if you will, with the Biden administration at the forefront. The president talking about what the administration has been able to accomplish over the course of the last 3.5 years, everything from getting the country out of the pandemic to also talking about the achievements that the president has made along the way, right? The bipartisan infrastructure law, lowering prescription drug prices, doing things on the international front, especially as it relates to NATO and things like that. And I think that is something that we can expect to hear from the president tonight, while also talking about passing the baton, passing the torch, if you will, to the next generation of leadership. His words, talking about, of course, Vice President Kamala Harris. And I think that will be especially important to pay attention to, right? Because if you remember, it was this time, maybe 3-4 weeks ago up until this point, that there was some infighting among the Democratic Party over the course of whether the president should step aside and allow for a younger possible nominee, or should he stay in this race. Obviously, polling suggested, at least at the time the president stepped out, that he trailed by quite a bit as it relates to former President Trump. But just with this change, if you will, seeing the vice president compared to former President Trump right now, she is leading in the polls. And so I think that is something that we will hear the president talk about, and how to sort of push forward through the way to a victory and, of course, taking the White House.
You mentioned it right there. Democrats are feeling the momentum. The CBS poll that came out recently shows Harris with a 3-point lead over Trump nationally and essentially tied in battleground states. What can we expect from her speech later this week to try and maybe sway undecided voters?
Well, Jeff, I think that's going to be such an interesting thing that we pay attention to over the course of the week, because while a lot of us may have heard of the vice president in her capacity, remember, she is going to have to reintroduce herself to some, if you will, especially as it relates to her stance on certain policies, her stance on certain issues. Obviously, the Democratic Party platform has put out their platform, if you will, before the convention, talking about wanting to raise a minimum wage to $15, and obviously looking for ways to protect and keep permanent child tax credits. But this is really going to be a stage for those undecided voters, those uncommitted delegates, those who may not sure who they want to vote for in this race, to really learn a little bit more about who the vice president is, not only her background, but what she stands for in terms of policies as well.
All right, Skylar Henry for us live in Chicago. We really appreciate your time. Thank you so much.